seems we have reached a dead end.
Adol! Look at that! What?
Is that... No. That's impossible.
Hello everyone, we are back, and we are here with a long-awaited review of Ys 9 Monstrum Nox. Now, this one I was actually excited for because after playing through Ys 8 Lacrimosa of Dana, which I do consider to be a true classic, it was interesting to see and very hyped up for me on what Falcom will deliver with the next Ys game. And the TLDR is, I feel like this is an improvement over 8 in a lot of ways. There are still some flaws with it though, but then again, no game is perfect. Even Ys 8 is not perfect, but I feel like Ys 9 might actually be in the running for my personal favorite game in the series. But the question is, like, what makes it special? Do I say that for this game? Well, why don't we elaborate on that? So in this game, you still play as Adol Kristen, our favorite redhead and adventurer. However, the thing with the story this time is that him and Dogi are still out on quests. They arrive in the city of Balduq, and Adol is immediately arrested. And he's sent to the Balduq prison. However, in there, after being interrogated by a lovely lady, who also makes nods to Adol's previous adventures, which I do personally think is a very nice touch, Adol is in jail, and he manages to escape, but before that happens, he gets shot by this unknown woman in a cloak, or with a hood, named Aprillis. Now, that I don't want to spoil too much of the story there, but the thing that makes this different is that while Ys's themes seem to be all about adventure and everything, and the adventure is still here, but I feel like it's been replaced with mystery. And the story, I personally find, is a lot more intriguing and has a better hook to it compared to what I found in Ys 8, because Ys 8 is, get off the island. Whereas Ys 9 is more like, there's a lot of questions with it. What is the deal with the prison? Who is Aprillis? What is her intentions? What is going on? Who are the Monstrum? What is the Grimwald Nox? It had a lot of questions for me, and it kept me hooked throughout. Especially when it comes to discovering, like, what the Monstrums are, what is this curse, and how does Balduq prison fit into all of this. But the story alone is one half of what makes that game for me. The other thing is I feel the characters in Ys 9 are extremely well done, even if they do follow some kind of tropes and stuff. It's kind of tropes with their kind of caricatures and stuff, but I do find all of the characters, all of the monstrums that you meet, they are very intriguing and interesting, and it's always curious to see how you meet them, because each chapter seems to be set up in how you meet the monstrums. But it's not just them, it's also the side characters, with probably two of my favorites in the series, one of them being the Doctor, Sarati, who I think has a very gorgeous design. You can judge me if you want from it. But the other cool one is Xavier. I forgot how to pronounce it, but I know it's spelled Xavier. He is one of the cutest things I've seen, and if a plushie exists, please tell me. I'd love to have one. But overall, like I said, the story is intriguing. It kept me hooked from beginning to end with its mystery and answering these questions. And I felt like there was a satisfying payoff and some very interesting twists throughout. So, that to me is my favorite thing with it. But the game isn't built off of story and characters alone. What about gameplay? And gameplay in this feels like it builds off of what was done in Ys 8. Just feels a little more refined. Combat was good. It's still fast-paced, and it's simple with the use of just a simple attack button on top of skills that you will learn for your characters, and, you know, leveling them up, getting them to max skills, finding new ones, and learning those throughout. It's still a 3-party system, so you'll still carry with 3 characters at a time. And it still has the ideas of, like, the slash, the pierce, and the heavy. So you'll have to keep that in mind when you're dealing with enemies as well. And it's nice to always kind of cycle between the characters and their styles and bringing them to the table. Now, there is something different with the combat, though. And what it is on top of all of that, you also have more in terms of maneuverability and everything. Now, when it comes to that, I did find exploration fun in the game, but you now have the Monstrum's abilities, which include things like the first one you get in the game is Crimson Line, which is basically just grapple points. Oh, you see that? Grab it, go. And then that expands with abilities such as, like, running up walls, gliding for a period of time, depending on how much SP you have, and other abilities, which I don't want to spoil too much of, but when you meet up with the new monsters, you will get their abilities, and they will factor into gameplay in terms of exploration. Now, the running up wall one is a big one for me because it introduces more verticality to the level. So you're going to be doing this a lot of it while you're in Balduc, and even in some of the dungeons, because there are some chests that, you know, are only high up, or there are some areas where you can only get to by, you know, running up walls or gliding, or even, you know, going underneath objects or finding hidden ways around, and even smashing things. So, you know, I may have just given off the abilities there of what the monsters do, but there is this kind of synergy when it comes to using those abilities for exploration, and you can even combine some of that with combat as well, which makes things feel fresh, and it makes things feel interesting. It also feels a little more snappier this time when it comes to your abilities and using your skills and stuff. You still also have the abilities of flash move, of, like, you know, flash dodge and flash guard. So you'll want to keep those in mind when you play. And then when it comes for combat itself, you also still get new weapons. You can upgrade those weapons. You still have a shop that you can use for, you know, your crafting as well. But the other place where combat also comes into play with some of the monster abilities is when you're fighting in the Grimwald Nox. So think of this something similar to defense or offense in Ys 8 when you were trying to defend your village, or even going out and taking the battle to the beasts. You have something like that in Ys 9 here, and you can also upgrade the abilities when you're in the Grimwald with, you know, some of the tools that you have at your disposal. So it still makes gathering resources very key to success in that game. Now, also with those abilities, it's not just for exploration purposes, you'll be using it to find stuff in the world too. And it just made everything feel more fleshed out and fun. In fact, like, when going through the story itself, just circling back to that for a second, and combining with the abilities, it did lead to memorable moments. Like, one big one for me was when you leave the city and you actually explore the world. You can see what's out beyond the walls, and that does factor into, you know, the story they're telling, and along with other aspects. Now, the only things with the gameplay is that it does obviously get repetitive. It is pretty simple with its with its mechanics in terms of combat, just like it was in Ys 8. Even though it has been expanded a little bit more, it still feels pretty simple, and it can just kind of rely down on tool button masher. But again, it's an action RPG, and that's fine. Like, the combat was still engaging from beginning to end for it, but if you're looking for more depth, you might have... If you had some issues with that in Ys 8, you're still going to see that pop up with Ys 9, so there's no changing that there. But in terms of other aspects of gameplay, I still enjoy its side stories on top of, like, its collectibles and 100%ing the map and finding all of the treasures, which did take a little bit to do. So exploration is still there. It was fun to do. And I said, like, even though combat does seem a little bit simplistic and stuff, it did actually feel better balanced here compared to Ys 8, because Ys 8 I found to be quite a bit easy. Ys 9 does, at least on normal difficulty, like, I did feel it was better balanced. There are maybe 1 or 2 tough segments here and there, but, you know, you can always go back and level up and always re-explore the environments. And there's still the level grind, of course, which, you're not a fan of level grinding. I mean, this no other RPG is going to change your mind when it comes to that, but again, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed leveling up the characters. The gameplay is still fun from beginning to end. It feels, as I said, like a more refined version of Ys 8 here. And this is going to be the last time I believe that we're going to see this kind of mechanics, because I know for the next installment, Ys 10 Nordics, things change. So I'm curious to see where that goes, but that's going to be for when Nordics comes out. But overall, like, the game is fun to play. I enjoyed it. It was solid. It did feel more refined and improved upon in most aspects for it. The only thing I can't say, and this might be one of my criticisms with this game, is its presentation. And the presentation-wise, like, I do feel it is a little more darker with its color palette, or a little more bland with its color palette, but again, considering what the world is and how it's designed, that kind of makes sense. Models do look better, though. I do like the look of the monstrums and all of the characters. I do feel that is more refined here. Environments, though, are a little bit kind of plain. That's kind of my only gripe with it. You do get to explore, like I said, and once you get out of the city, it does expand things a little bit. So there is a little more variety, but it does kind of feel a little empty. Though it's not as colorful, as I said, as Ys 8, but again, with the theme that they're going for and the style that Ys 9 is, it makes sense. But it might just be a little off-putting for some. The only other things I could say with graphics that were kind of a bummer is that performance is actually pretty good. It does run relatively well. I did notice some drops here and there, but it never got to unplayable levels. Now, one thing I did notice with the original release with it is that performance was a bit of a problem. Here, it's actually a lot better. And if this is going to be the first one you're playing, I think you're going to be fine with it. But one issue with the technical side of things is that there is pop-in, and I feel it's more severe here than it has been compared to Ys 8, because you just see things pop up kind of in front of you. It doesn't really hinder much when it comes to combat and stuff, but it is kind of annoying, and it does kind of stand out. And then the only other thing I would say with presentation is, you know, like I said, those minor performance drops. Other than that, I think the game's fine from a technical level, but you feel that it could have been more. They could have done a lot more with its refinement, but in terms of where it is, I'll take it. It's fine. The other thing that really stands out, and this is maybe the mixed part of it to me, is its music. Because that's one thing I really loved about Ys 8. Its soundtrack really set the stage and the tone for everything here. Ys 9's does that too. I just don't feel it is as maybe varied, or it doesn't feel as impactful as it could have been. But there were still some tracks that stood out to me. But here are a few samples of the tracks. Take a listen for yourself. In terms of the music, though, it might be the weakest one I've played out of all of the other Falcom games, which includes the Trails games. But it's not disappointing. It does feel weak. It's not bad. But you feel like it could have been more. Other than that, like, the sound is still good. The dub is actually pretty well done. I will say that. It's also interesting to hear adults speak sometimes. You did get that a little bit in Ys 8, you do get that a little more with Ys 9, and it kind of messes with me a little bit. However, the dub is good, but if you want to, you can also have Japanese audio instead. Now, in terms of options, this does carry something over from PC, which is you can play with a mouse and keyboard, just like you could with Ys 8 on PS5. I didn't get a chance to test this, so I can't speak to that. The controls are so fully customizable, which is nice, and you do get a fair amount of good options here, so if you played Ys 8, you know what you're going to expect here in Ys 9, so there's nothing really much to write about or say when it comes to that aspect. Overall, though, like, Ys 9 was a fun game. I enjoyed it. It has, I feel, a better story, and I think more interesting characters that has a better hook. Its gameplay is more of a refinement of what was done in Ys 8, and for the most part, it does it well. The only real thing that holds this game back is just some of the technical stuff from its presentation, where, you know, the pop-in, it's a bit annoying, maybe a little bit blandness with some of its environments, there could be a little more variety with things, and the music, while still good, it feels like it could have been more, so it feels maybe a little underdeveloped. Or just, again, it feels like it could have been more. I'm not going to say it's bad, because there's nothing bad about it. But I enjoyed this game for what it is. I feel like it could be my new personal favorite in the series. Ys 8 is still a classic to me, but Ys 9 just feels better. It does, again, like I said, have its quirks, but I still think it's worth playing. If this is your first installment, though, then you won't be disappointed with it, but it will intrigue you to maybe go back and see previous games in the series. Because, again, with the story nods of mentioning Adolf's previous adventures, you don't have to have played the previous games to play this one, though. But it will have you intrigued on, like, hey, what's this? How did this happen? So, it is intriguing, and as a culmination of the series, I feel like this is great. And I can't wait to see where the series goes with Nordics, and even beyond that. Pick this game up. You'll have fun with it. I'm sure. So with that, I want to give a thank you to NIS for providing me with a copy of this game for the PlayStation 5. Thank you, it really means a lot to me. I'm sorry it took this long to do. There were things that kind of got in the way, and I kind of got sidetracked with stuff, but I got it here. Thank you for this opportunity, it really means a lot. And again, I'm sorry that it took this long. Not only to get this out, but also to make you guys wait for this. But I appreciate your patience, and I thank you for that. Not only that, but also watching this video and taking time out of your day to see this. What are your thoughts, though, on Ys 8? Ys 9, sorry. I'm sorry about that. What are your thoughts on Ys 9? I'd love to hear what you have to say. Please leave your feedback in the comments below. Don't forget, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and spread the word. I'd love you guys for making me, do this kind of stuff, and I hope you guys appreciate this. So with that said, until next time, stay safe, and I will see you in the next one.
Super Retro Force.